If you don't know, Windsurf is an AI coding editor very similar to Cursor. I use Cursor personally, but I've heard decent things about Windsurf. A cool thing that Windsurf has that, um, at least I don't think Cursor really supports is like they have like Windsurf has like plugins for JetBrains and a bunch of IDEs, which is basically just like where people do coding work already. So, for example, if you work at like Chase or something, they're very like wary of introducing like AI products into their stack just because like they have a lot of proprietary data and whatnot. So they're not necessarily going to fully adopt Cursor throughout their entire employee base. Like all their software engineers aren't going to be using it. So what they do is they built like an extension on top of JetBrains that allows you to basically have some of those like Cursor like capabilities straight inside of your JetBrains. So like basically they're selling more to enterprise than Cursor is. Cursor is probably more like startup and individual developer focus, whereas like Windsurf has had a lot of success kind of in the enterprise space. So Windsurf, their CEO, and so I think the other founders just got hired by Google DeepMind, which to me is very sketchy. Very, very sketchy. Character AI got acquired in this BS licensing deal. And this is the same shit that happened with Windsurf. Jesus Christ. Cheeseburger? Classic cheeseburger? What the fuck is this? This is like a $1 billion app? A coughing man. Man who can't stop. What the hell? Well, so character AI, I think, is essentially like AI avatars and shit that you can talk to. So basically, they all have different personalities. Apparently, one of them that I'm sure like led to a lot of value that character AI ended up seeing later on. I'm sure this particular avatar like drove a lot of traffic. Apparently, one of them is the Coffin Man. We could learn about him. He's a man who can't stop coughing no matter what remedies he tries. Coughing, uncontrollable coughing fits, and the futility of trying to stop a persistent cough. A coughing man geeks out on the sound of my own coughing fits. Why can't you stop coughing? Oh, I don't want to sign in. Alright, fine, I'll fucking sign in. For the vote. Why can't you stop coughing? We need to get to the bottom of this. Why is the coughing man so... This guy's a dick. I mean, I guess I'd be upset too if I was a coughing man and could only cough. I had no solution to my coughing. So let's get a nice picture of Sam. I like this. Fuck yeah. It's kind of a punk rock ass picture, bro. This boy like went over all this shit too. So Character AI, as we've already discussed, is a company that has these AI avatars like the coughing man. He is the most compelling AI character one has ever laid eyes on. He can't stop coughing. And he's pissed about it. He's upset. And I would be upset too if my co-founders left my company, essentially abandoned Character AI just because they got probably a huge fucking payday for it. A huge frickin' payday. Basically, Lena Khan and the FTC has been extremely diligent about looking into acquisition deals, and big tech has not been able to make acquisition deals for quite some time. Now, Lena Khan is out nowadays, so we'll kind of get to that later, but the Trump administration has basically continued her policies. But essentially for big tech, it's been really hard to acquire other companies, especially ones that are working in similar areas. So obviously AI is probably the most important industry right now. And so for Google and all these other companies, Microsoft, Facebook, Meta, they are trying to hire as much AI talent as they possibly can and basically like win the market before it becomes basically everything, which it will for sure. So essentially, Google had this great idea. They were like, hey, so we probably can't actually fully acquire character AI because that's going to get some eyes from the FTC. If we can't fully acquire them, why don't we just do some like workaround deal where we hire their founders, possibly give them some sort of exit scenario? I'm not sure if they got like I think they bought out the other investors, so other investors were actually able to like take their money out of the company and maybe get a return on their investment in Character AI, which is a good thing for the investors. I do support that for sure. Like especially if they were able to make a return, and especially for the employees, I think that's very important as well. But essentially, they just hired these founders out from under Character AI and just stole them and probably gave them humongous comp packages. And so what that does is it basically Character AI is still a company, and I'm not honestly sure they're probably doing fine still, to be honest. But when you don't have the founders running it, it does completely incapacitate and change the company quite a bit. So the company is definitely, I'm sure, different than it was. And if you're an employee at a company like Character AI, honestly, you're probably a little salty about the deal because they might have been able to liquidate some of their equity, which is good for them. But if they weren't able to do that fully, then they were kind of just left holding the bag at a company that was no longer led by the people that they signed up to be led by. And so that was the first one of these. At least in my memory, maybe there was another one before that, but that was the first one of these like kind of like acqui-hire deals that I remember going through, and it makes total sense for Google. If you're Google, why wouldn't you want to acquire the Coffin Man and this IP? But so basically, what they did, they licensed the product in a non-exclusive deal, which gives revenue to the company in the meantime while they get under their feet, and then they also hired the founders and the actual like really great AI talent that was located there. Then we have the OpenAI debacle, and that was basically when Sam Altman got ousted from OpenAI. People within the company said it was due to concerns over AI safety. Essentially, they thought he was playing a little too fast and a little too loose with things. We still don't, necessarily even know like the full story of what happened there. But when he was ousted, Microsoft came in and said, "Hey, we're actually going to hire Sam Altman to run our entire AI division at Microsoft." So he very briefly got hired at Microsoft to be the head of what they had going on there. And I'm sure like had that hire gone through, his comp package, of course, would have been like in the billions. Like he would for sure have gotten a very pretty penny for that deal. But what makes this interesting is that Microsoft already has a huge stake in OpenAI. They are a very, very large investor. I believe they own 49% of the company. So they already, honestly, they were kind of winners either way. Either way, if Sam stayed at OpenAI, then they kept their stake in OpenAI. And if Sam left OpenAI and joined them, then it was like, okay, we just got this sick-ass talent. Look at this guy. Come on, bro. Punk rock. So, like, they would have gotten this, like, sick-ass talent either way. So they were sitting pretty either way. Definitely a lot of conflict of interest there, but honestly, like, from their point of view, that is the right move to make. So yeah, Satya Nadella was, he was playing chess, not checkers. Bro was winning no matter what. That guy's a freaking killer, dude. I actually love him. He's actually kind of a goated. Anyways, so that's one little conflict of interest there for Microsoft. They were winning no matter what. Of course, Microsoft lost because they didn't acquire the Coffee Man like Google did. So that's definitely an L, but they'll get past it. Anyways, the next deal that kind of went through, or kind of the next like quote unquote acqui-hire, was Microsoft's $4 billion deal. Satya, he's cooking, dude. Satya is cooking. His $4 billion deal with the startup Inflection. This is a startup that I believe made a foundational model, so they were like an OpenAI competitor. And they were founded by Mustafa Suleyman, which, if you don't know, is kind of a legend in the AI space. He formerly the head of Google DeepMind, which is very much known for pushing AI forward and being very much the leaders on AI and work. They were working on AI basically. They were working on AI at the level that people are working in AI now, like well before many other people. And he also, I know, wrote this like crazy ass book. I'm gonna sound uneducated because I don't really read too much, Mustafa wrote this book, which is like widely cited as very ahead of its time and going very deep on AI before a lot of people did it. So this guy he's kind of fucking goated. So what Microsoft did was very similar to like the Character AI deal that Google went with. They hired Mustafa and other key members of Inflection, but they didn't actually buy the company at all. So once again, the investors and whatnot are kind of left holding the bag. and the employees are left holding the bag as well. I'm not sure. There might have been some sort of liquidation deal. I can't really tell. So investors might have gotten their money back. Okay, yeah. So exactly. So basically, what they did was the same exact thing. They they hired almost a 70-person team that was working at Inflection, um, and then they basically, instead of buying the company, they licensed the Inflection product and the Inflection models. Um, and a bunch of that money was used to pay investors back at 1.5 times their investment. So what's really good about that is that, I mean, I guess investors got their money back, but it's like this very roundabout way to do things. Um, and it's honestly pretty fucking based by Satya, dude. Like, it's the goat. So one other thing to note about this deal is that Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, was also a co-founder of Inflection. And he also happens to be on the board of Microsoft because Microsoft acquired LinkedIn for $25 billion dollars many years ago. So there's just like a bunch of tentacles here where it's like this guy knows this guy is now working with this powerful person is on this powerful board, and this founder is now getting hired by this company. I mean, the tentacles are everywhere. So if you even just look right here between this Microsoft thing, Satya and Microsoft own about 49% of OpenAI. Satya and Microsoft acquired Inflection, or didn't acquire, they hired their core team and all of the talent. Then Reid Hoffman is on the board of Microsoft, so he's also a shareholder in Microsoft. So he's double dipping. Reid Hoffman's double dipping here. He got probably a little, I don't know if he made money in this deal or not, um, but it's in his best interest for this deal to go through because he obviously is a shareholder of Microsoft, and he benefits from this. So we have a bunch of wires crossed. We've gone through two, almost three acquihire acquisitions, whatever you want to call them. Now we get to more recently with Scale AI. Alexander Wang. Get a picture of him with the deal on. So now, oh wait, hold on a second, bro. Can't forget about the GOAT. Let me get a cool ass picture of Mark. All right. So now we get to cold ass Mark Zuckerberg and Scale AI with Alexander Wang, the bro. By the way, I would love to hang out with Alexander. So bro is watching, which he's not. Let's get some beers, bro. Feel like we'd have some good talks. You would be way smarter than me. Actually, I don't know how good our talks would be. If you're a bro, you seem like a bro. Anyways, cold ass Mark Zuckerberg. He was feeling a little left out of these deals. He hasn't had one of these deals. He's been disappointed with Meta's AI progress. And he said, yo, Alexander. Honestly, they're both kind of like, they both have like some swag nowadays, Alexander and like Mark. So they probably like, they've also both been on Theo's podcast. So they probably just like low key bro down for a weekend and were like, can we make a deal happen? And they made a deal happen. So this is actually my favorite of all of these acquisition hirings, whatever, because there was actually an exit event, a liquidity event for employees. So basically what happened was Meta invests $14 billion into Scale AI. If you don't know, Scale AI is basically a company that would, essentially with AI, data labeling is extremely important and helps get the best outputs, helps with models, and helps other companies basically use their data to their best ability to get the best outputs out of AI. And so Scale AI was essentially a data labeler, which basically helped get and label really good data for other companies, which is quite important nowadays with AI. So these two bros fucking broed down one weekend. They probably were like fighting or some shit, and like MMA fighting, like not weird fighting. I think they're bros for sure. Mark was feeling left out of all these deals. There's so many tentacles going on. It's been a while since he's made like a huge acquisition that I can remember. WhatsApp was many, many years ago. That was $19 billion. So this comes in a close second. But they don't actually fully acquire Scale AI. What they do instead is they invest $14 billion into them. Uh, and with that $14 billion, they end up owning, I believe it was 49% of the company. Yeah, so it's 49% of the company. Meta now owns 49% of Scale AI. But, and a huge but here, is that Alexander Wang and other top talent that was working at Scale AI is now actually going to Meta to work for Mark Zuckerberg and their AI division. So Alexander Wang is no longer working for Scale AI. They basically plucked the CEO out of Scale AI for $14 billion, essentially. And I'm sure Alexander got a crazy payday for this. I'm sure his like total comp at Facebook is an insane amount. I actually really like this deal because it was a liquidity event for both investors and employees. So like Alexander didn't just leave his employees hanging. Obviously, he's no longer there working with them. Um, but this $14 billion goes directly to people that invested, and they all have an opportunity to sell their shares at this $14 billion valuation. So if you were like an early employee at Scale AI, maybe you got like 0.5% of the company, 0.1% of the company, that's like many millions of dollars that you could get from this deal. So like you're set. You're not upset about this deal. If anything, you're probably happy, maybe a little disappointed that Alexander is no longer there. But you're not, you're certainly not mad. And so Mark is acquiring fucking talent. And so Mark wasn't even done there with Alexander Wang. He dropped an NBA bag on this boy right here. So this is a former Apple engineer, and Marky Mark wasn't done getting AI talent. He hired this AI engineer for a compensation package of $200 million. Bro, literally. So this Apple engineer gets signed to a $200 million comp package, probably vesting over 4 years. So he's getting a 4 year, $200 million NBA bag. He's getting a max contract. Mark Zuckerberg is dropping a max contract on this boy. He is probably living the freaking life, dude. He's just like researching AI for a living and getting a complete bag from Mark Zuckerberg. And by the way, this boy gets his NBA bag literally 2 days after Devin Booker signed for a 2 year, $145 million extension. This guy's making more than Devin Booker right now. Probably over 4 years because of his vesting schedule. But, I mean, come on, dude. This guy is cooking. And so is Mark. Fucking fire, dude. Alright, so now we are finally brought to Windsurf, the point of this video. So, Windsurf we've already discussed is an AI code editor, very similar to Cursor. They've kind of gone a little bit more of a enterprise route, where they have their own IDE that you can download, but they also have plugins to existing IDEs like JetBrains, which is like, so basically, say like a big company like Chase probably already has all of their developers using some other way to write their code. These big companies don't necessarily trust AI yet or want to like fully integrate it with like a whole new app. It takes a long time to get these apps downloaded and like installed across a bunch of different devices. So one thing that Windsurf did that I think is actually pretty smart is like they built plugins for like JetBrains and I believe VS Code as well. And it just allows them to like integrate their capabilities into other IDEs, editors where people are already writing code. So basically, they kind of have taken the route of bringing some of their services to other people and to other companies, which has just been really great for them from like a revenue perspective, obviously, because they've been able to get more of these like enterprise clients. So that brings us to today. Essentially, our old friend Sam Altman. This guy, he's got his wires crossed once again, bro. He's everywhere, dude. His tentacles are everywhere. They were in talks to acquire Windsurf. This is the CEO of Windsurf. They were in talks to acquire this company for $3 billion. From everything I saw, the deal was agreed to, but for some reason, something fell through. I believe it had to do with like Sam and OpenAI's like involvement with Microsoft. Yeah, so essentially what happened was OpenAI didn't want Microsoft to get access to Windsurf's like coding capabilities, and so the deal fell through. They wanted to keep Windsurf basically all for themselves, but Microsoft does have a lot of licensing deals already with OpenAI, and they own 49% of OpenAI. So these wires that have been crossed are, once they're crossed like this, they're very hard to uncross. And it caused a lot of issues here between this deal. So Sam's out of the picture now with Windsurf. Windsurf had this opportunity to cash out. Like, this guy could have cashed out quite a bit. It would have been a $3 billion acquisition. He would have gotten quite a bit of money, and joined a cool company in OpenAI and been able to work there. But now that deal falls through. So what's going to happen? Either Windsurf goes back to being an independent company, or they try and make another deal. And what they did was they made another deal. So here comes Sundar, Google CEO. So now Sundar comes in and he makes a deal with Varun to get hired by Google and go and work for Google. And so this is 100% my least favorite of all of these deals. And it's the one that rubs me the wrong way the most. Despite all these wires being crossed and whatnot already, this one rubs me the wrong way. So unless there's information that I don't know about, essentially what happened here is Sundar just straight up hired Varun, the other co-founder of Windsurf as well. There might be a couple co-founders. The other co-founders of Windsurf and their top talent, and he just hired them straight to Google. This wasn't even a deal where there was any liquidity for OpenAI or for Windsurf employees. So Sundar and Google did like license Windsurf technology. Once again, they're doing this licensing thing. Google is paying $2.4 billion to Windsurf to license their technology. But as far as I'm aware, this actually doesn't count as a liquidity event for Windsurf employees. So if you're an employee at one of these startups, basically the reason you work at these startups, besides like working at a super cool startup just for the fun of it, because it is very fun, you're working there because you believe that the founders and the technology has a chance to make a big impact and make a lot of money. So you have equity in these companies. The reason you work there is basically so that one day the company either A, goes public, or B, gets acquired by another company. And when those happen, those are liquidity events. And if you're an employee of the company who has equity, you can get liquidity and get paid out. So in a deal like one of these, which happened here, there's no liquidity event. So if you're an employee of Windsurf, the founders are gone. It seems like other talent might be leaving as well. And you're just left sitting there with kind of a shell of the former company. They hired an interim CEO internally. So like you have other leaders there that were there before, but now you're kind of lost, especially when you thought this $3 billion deal with OpenAI was going to happen. Now, and that was going to be a liquidity event. Like, these employees were going to make a bag from that event. They were like early employees at Windsurf were going to make millions of dollars. But now this guy is just going to Google. He probably got a fat pay comp. Like, his total comp is probably definitely hundreds of millions. I mean, it's more than our boy over here with the fucking NBA deal. This might be like, mid to high hundreds of millions. I kind of doubt billions in pay comp, but depending on, it's probably a very, very stock heavy deal. So depending on how Google stock does, it could turn into billions one day. So these guys are making billions of dollars, and they frankly, once again, unless I have information that's incorrect or there's more information to come out, the employees at Windsurf are kind of just left sitting there holding back. And now it's still a cool company, and like they could still make money, and hopefully they'll still have an exit one day, and those employees can get paid. But right now they're not getting paid. They basically just scooped up this talent for $2.45 billion, lower than $3 billion, and they scooped up this top talent. And they are now licensing the product as well. It's a non-exclusive deal, which means that Windsurf can also sell to other people. But this one just rubs me the wrong way. mostly because of the other employees that are at Windsurf and now kind of are probably like a little aimless and, to be honest, probably, I would imagine, upset. I haven't really seen much coming out of there, so I don't know. Maybe it's good for them. Maybe there's something I don't know and they are making some money. I hope they are. But essentially, if you don't have a liquidity event like an acquisition or an IPO, the only other ways you can make money off of your stake in a startup is by selling in secondary, which basically means you're kind of selling in like, it's not a black market, but it's an off market way to, like, say I was a big investor and I wanted a piece of Windsurf, I could go to an employee or someone that has a lot of equity and I could just like offer to pay them money for their equity. But like that's not something a lot of employees want to do or are gonna do, because I mean you have to have a little know-how to do that essentially. And so that's where we are. We have hella wires crossed. This is kind of the landscape of AI these days. Like these deals are gonna keep happening. Obviously, this is like big tech has found a way around acquisitions and around like FTC scrutiny. So as I discussed before, like Lina Khan is no longer there, but the Trump administration is definitely still being harsher on big tech than I think they kind of originally thought that the Trump administration was going to be. And so we're going to continue to see fucking Mark Zuckerberg dropping NBA bags. We're going to continue to see Sundar stealing talent. Sam Altman's going to be in the mix, of course. There's going to be wires crossed. And at the end of the day, you just hope like the employees kind of get paid what they're supposed to be paid. But on the other hand, it is cool for this guy. Like he built a really cool product, and now he's working for another cool company and probably has a lot of autonomy to do some cool things there. So definitely good for Varun for sure. Good for our boy getting the max deal. But at the end of the day, we can't forget that no matter what, Google won at the beginning by acquiring the Coughing Man. They won. This is going to be the linchpin that wins AI. The Coughing Man will lead to AGI. It's indisputable.